Most innovations fail. Companies that don't innovate die. And so in this panel, we're going to talk about this concept of open innovation. And those two sentences were the first two sentences in that book that I wrote back in 2003. 13 years on, we've got a panel of companies that are trying, who've already scaled, unlike the startups in the room, but having scaled, how do you remain innovative? How do you remain agile? And I think we're going to see in these four different instances the role that open innovation can play in doing so. So let me start by asking my panelists. We just had a very high energy panel that kept their comments pretty focused and pretty brief. Let's follow their example. Prith, I'll start with you. Please introduce yourself, and then I'll dig into our questions.
Sure. So I'm Prith Banerjee. I'm Chief Technology Officer of Schneider Electric. I joined a year ago. Schneider Electric is an energy management and automation company solving energy problems in things like buildings, data centers, industries, and energy.
Excellent.
Hi, I am the former general manager of Illy Coffee. Maybe a little bit better of what you have drunk so far, but I have to tell you the company is a global company, 140 countries. We have more than 100,000 clients, 7 million people drinking coffee every day, and we have a long history of very interesting innovations, but now it's time to change.
Good afternoon, Eduardo Dominguez Puerta from A-Cubed, Airbus. I'm the COO here in San Jose in the Silicon Valley. Airbus is doing space systems, aircrafts, and helicopters. We opened our outpost here about a year ago, and we're trying to mingle with the people here and the ecosystem here.
Thank you. Ernesto.
Hi, my name is Ernesto Ciorra. I was a serial entrepreneur for more or less 20 years. Now I am leading innovation and sustainability at Enel. Enel is the biggest European energy company, and we are considered the leader for innovation in energy. That is not a very important reward, because in energy sectors, no one is leading innovation really. So we are considered the leader of nothing. Okay. Ciao.
So our panel is titled Survival of the Fittest. And so we want to explore how you are surviving in the very competitive environment. Ernesto, let me start with you, if I can, and ask you to talk about how you are using open innovation in your company. How do you organize it, and how do you measure it to remain one of the fittest?
If you want to better understand how we have organized innovation at Enel, you can read the Enel case that has been published by Berkeley, Haas Business School, and written by Professor Chesbrough. It's a case that you can find on hbr.org, no? Is it right? With a very affordable price, cheap price, you can buy it for
It's very open
€5.
innovation. Berkeley wrote it. Harvard is selling it.
Yes. But I would like, after I will answer your question, but as you can perceive, I'm a little bit a comedian. And I'm one of them. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of Enel, but I'm a comedian too. That's why it's real. It isn't a joke. I would like to share with you just one slide. The organizers told me, please don't share slide. That's why I have one slide, because I am a rebel, no? Now I ask you to play a very fast, interactive game with me. Please, you can do it looking at the screens. Are you able? Did you take enough caffeine to address just a simple sum? Okay, it's a sum. Let's do loud. What's the total? If you add 1,000 to 40, what's the total? Say loud, please. 1,040. Okay. Now, what's the total? Now, what's the total? Now, what's the total? And now? And now? And now? 5,000. You are a professor, no? So you say 5,000. A lot of people say 5,000. the majority of people here say 5,000. How many years did you study mathematics? Hey, we are in the temple of, in the computer museum, no? A lot of people studied before mathematics and after informatics, and even statistics and so many stuff. But it's a simple sum. If I ask my kid is 8 years old, he's able to say that the real and good result is 4,100. Why did you say 5,000? I said 5,000, the first time that Eduardo Bono shared with me this. You said 5,000. Who said 5,000? Please raise the hand. Say the truth. Don't be shy, okay? The majority of people usually say 5,000. Why? Because I have proposed to you a simple sum with an evident dominant rule. What is the dominant rule that your brain has immediately learned and applied? Add 1,000. I asked your mind to add 1,000 4 times in 10 seconds. Your brain has learned this rule, has obeyed to this rule. I must add 1,000. Even if I didn't ask you to add another time 1,000, your brain used the prevalent and relevant rule in this sum. And it didn't follow 30 years of mathematics learning. So I have canceled your skills in 10 seconds. So what can your companies do with your brain? In many years in which you are working in a sector, if in 10 seconds a stupid Italian guy coming here can oblige your brain to obey to my rule rather than to obey to what you studied in many years, you can imagine how your companies can limit your brains. How can the practice of a sector limit your knowledge? That's why we need people who are outside. Because people in our companies, people in our sectors, they follow the rules. They follow rules even if they have not to do this. That's why we have structured a Chief Innovation Officer with a relevant role, very close to the CEO. I'm directly under the CEO. And managing innovation everywhere, in all the markets, in all the business lines, in all the aspects of our business, there is the Chief Innovation Officer who is reporting to the head of that business line, to the head of their market, and to me. It's an hub ready to get in touch with people who are outside. Startups, research centers, universities, independent innovators, all of them have a relevant counterpart in our organization, able to put them in contact with all our people, everywhere they are. It doesn't matter where they work. We are working in 40 different countries. And unfortunately, we are the leader for renewables in the United States too. That's why we have the innovation manager in the United States. And the innovation manager in the United States can collect startups from wherever and can put them in contact with our markets, 40 different countries, or with our business technology lines that are worldwide. So this is the organization, and it was a joke, just to share with you why we need people who are outside. Because people who are outside, they don't follow the rules that in our markets, in our sectors, all our people follow. We need fresh air. We need a different way of thinking. We need people who don't have this guy from Italy obliging them to follow a fake rule. No?
Prith, I'm going to go to you next because you've been at Schneider now about a year, so you also came from outside. Talk a little bit about how open innovation works at Schneider, how it's organized, and how you measure it.
Sure. But before I do that, I just wanted to share with the audience here that I was fortunate to work in a couple of other organizations prior to Schneider, and I've actually learned at every company, sort of taking version 1 of open innovation, taking the learnings from Henry and so on. So I started open innovation at HP, running HP Labs, and this is where we worked a lot with universities, and it was kind of easy to get outside fundamental research into HP Labs. Then joined ABB. I was CTO at ABB, did very similar things working with universities. Then immediately prior to Schneider, I was at Accenture, and this is where I learned to do open innovation from startup companies into a very large consulting company. And now at Schneider, I'm doing open innovation, and it's a very interesting observation that I wanted to share with all of you. Scanning the startups is actually the easy part. I mean, there are just thousands of startups in Silicon Valley. I work for a French company, but I work out of San Francisco. And finding startups like Curb and OhmConnect and this and that is the easy part. The hard part is we are in a $30 billion company. We have 5 businesses, but to engage those business leaders in paying attention to the startup is the hard part. So what we have done as part of the organization that I have, at my CTO office, I run open innovation. The person running open innovation reports to me. But rather than having a large group of open innovators, all in Silicon Valley or in London or in Madrid or in Singapore, if they all reported to me, it would not work. So the way we organize ourselves is just like embedded reporters, right, in the war. These people have dual roles. So all my open innovation team, they have direct line to the businesses. We have 5 businesses, our buildings business, data center, industry, and so on. They are full-time members of that, but they are sort of dotted line into my open innovation. Of course, I have a core open innovation group, but I have found that to fail in HP, in Accenture, and so on, where I built a very big open innovation team to make it work, and I think it is now working at Schneider, by having these embedded people who are really responsible for the catching function. You take a startup's technology, unless you have someone at the other end, the impedance match to take the technology, it will not work. So that's how we have made it work at Schneider.
Eduardo, over to you. Well, your experience with open innovation.
Actually, when you come from an industry that is military, that is heavily regulated.
Speaking of rules.
Rules, secretism, open innovation is a paradigm. It's a vision. If you think of innovation, or at least in our company, end of the 70s, we invented a fly-by-wire, which at the time was a huge game changer into the whole aeronautics. And little by little, we became older. We started following the rules, and at some stage, we became less innovative. So I agree with you on you need to put people outside of their normal scheme. This is why we set up our facilities here, so no boundary conditions. You need to find the catchers on the mothership, all those engineers who are more intelligent than the engineers who are here, who have done it before, and who don't like the non-invented here syndrome, or they just really fall into that. And then you really need to be able to disrupt your own company. I think that is beautiful. My mission every day is to try to disrupt Airbus. And Airbus is paying me to try to find all the weakest points of my company, which I think in terms of mindset is ideal for innovation.
Giovanni, your experience.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm quite a smaller company of my colleagues here in the panel, but unfortunately the company has 80 years of history of innovation. 80 years. So you can imagine a company where basically the family have invented the most important, I would say also breakthrough innovation in the coffee industry. So it's a really closed innovation paradigm, completely closed, where it's also crossed with the ownership of the company. So it's not just because there is an internal R&D office. So for me, the point was, how can I open the innovation in this company? And what I did was basically to try to change the mindset, especially of the ownership, that it's not anymore a matter of having inventions, but how to implement them and how to take them to the market. So we needed to develop new business models of the inventions. And this was the starting point. Take into account I was the general manager, so I was just behind, below the owner. So I took all my manager here to the Silicon Valley, did an innovation boot camp to change the mind, and then I did something that I still consider quite fantastic. We did 2 hackathons. We called them coffee hacks. We invited the students, universities, design firms, and also tech companies. And we create an environment through which people were looking at us as an open company, ready to leverage the brand, the technology, to bring what was our expertise, and we were ready to cross with them what we were looking for, which was the brief of the hackathons. And this process was just amazing on how many doors we opened. Probably I don't know, all the coffee startups in the Valley, but also startups that are creating all the possible accelerator to reach the customer for us, like company like Ciorra, Curbside, strange names, which very, very amazing. But we opened the company and people came to us because they recognized that we were going to do an open innovation program. For us, this was much more important to build a reputation here than just trying to convince the guys in my company, which is almost impossible. As a matter of fact, we incorporate a foundry outside the company in order to manage all this process.
Well, this is beautiful because there's so much coffee and Red Bull at these hackathons generally.
Yes.
How wonderful that you're actually using it to innovate in the caffeine space as well.
We don't admit Red Bull, but anyway.
Yeah. So we've got an audience here with lots of entrepreneurs in it. I want to ask each of you, and maybe I'll start with you, Eduardo, how do you engage with the startup community? Because you are a very big, large, and maybe even old company.
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is you need to talk their language. That means you need to abandon all your corporate NDAs, all your contractual framework. You need to put all your guys from procurement functions out in Europe because they're going to understand nothing, and the startup guys are going to be running away as soon as they see the big pile of documents they need to read through. Actually, you multiply...
So your legal team and your procurement team are potential innovation killers when it comes to working with startups.
This is why our legal team, our procurement team are so lean and are actually coming from the Valley. So I think that is one important thing, is the adaptation of the language. And for that, I think you also need to hire some of that talent to be able to speak that language. Mm-hmm. So if I had to give a way that Airbus is doing that, is to really talk their language.
Prith, how are you engaging with the startups?
So we have, as I said, we have an open innovation, a group under my CTO office. So just one thing I wanted to kind of share with you is in a company like Schneider, there is a core innovation that happens, and that is evolutionary innovation. We don't rely on startups for the evolutionary things, right? So in our core, we work on breaking technology and switching technology. It is unclear that that will come from a startup. We look, and so we kind of look at innovation as Horizon 1, which is the core, Horizon 2, which is adjacent, and Horizon 3, the disruptive. Typically, in organizations like Schneider or HP or whatever, you have these things like HP Labs. We have our corporate research center who is charged to do disruptive innovation. But these people, these engineers in corporate research, think that they have to do everything themselves because they're engineers, and if it is not invented here, they have not added value. One of the most important things that I have been able to share with my corporate research team is it is not about who invented that, but if you can somehow, being the smart material scientist that you are, working with the startup, pair it up, and then bring that innovation faster to market than the competition, which in our case is the sort of GE, Siemens, Rockwell, Honeywell, and so on. And that pairing of corporate research centers people and open innovation has really sparked it. So we call our corporate research people corporate accelerators. They don't have to invent the cool things. Look, we are small. We are doing big data analytics. What chance does 5 people or 10 people in big data have in corporate research at Schneider, right? Our role, those 10 people, are to work with the 100 big data startups in the Valley. And I have found that multiplying factor to be hugely beneficial. So today we are working with about 700 startups across sort of Schneider Electric, not only in the Valley, but in Boston, in different places, also in Grenoble, where we have a very big ecosystem. But one thing that I have learned is to tell the people in corporate research that you don't have to invent everything, right? If you can form that bridge to the startups, can have massive, massive magnifying factors in companies like Enel or Airbus or Siemens.
Yeah, speaking of Enel, Ernesto, back to you. If you're a startup here in this room with a great renewable energy idea, who should they talk to at Enel?
It's very easy for them because we have a website. In this website, startup.enel.com, you find all our technological priorities. You can apply. You will receive an answer maximum within 1 month. And there is a specific process that this idea goes, or this proposal goes to the innovation manager of the topic regarding your proposal. This innovation manager can be linked immediately in contact with you. You will be able to meet them, and they will be able to evaluate your idea. There is a specific process fully dedicated to manage those startups. I can share with you some nice stories. For example, when we wanted to implement in United States the first hybridization, implementing in one plant, photovoltaic plant, concentrated solar energy and geothermal energy, we went to MIT. We asked them, hey, let's study this possibility. We want to hybridize these 3 technologies. After 4 months, paying them a lot of money, they came back, they said, it's impossible. So we were a little bit disappointed because paying a lot of money, spending 4 months, just to say...
to Berkeley.
No, we were at the MIT, okay, and just saying to us, it's impossible, okay, I could save money, not asking them, but okay. After we went to our startup ecosystem, we launched the challenge. We want to do this. We have an ecosystem with sensors everywhere. We have sensors in Colombia, in Chile, in Brazil, in the United States, in Israel, where we have launched our accelerator, and we are going to launch an accelerator at Berkeley too. So we launched this challenge. Even we involved digital platforms like Innocentive. Is it possible to do this? Some startups came to us. We did it. It's an existing plant in the United States, in Nevada, at Fallon. We have been rewarded as it has been considered the most innovative plant in the world by the US Energy Association. And it's interesting because using the same startup, we have implemented another interesting hybridization that has been rewarded as the newest, most innovative plant in the United States and in the world. It's in Fort Cove in the United States because we have hybridized the hydro plant with the geothermal plant. No one did it before. In both cases, 2 different universities. I've said just the first one said it was impossible. We didn't share these results with our colleagues. We were not open with our colleagues because if someone knows that it's impossible, he doesn't do the best, no, that he can. But if he doesn't know that it's impossible, it can be that he makes it possible, and they did. And there is here a CEO of a startup we are working with, Nuvi. You can raise the hand. He could share with you how we are working. We had a charger. Do you know the chargers to charge the electric car? What is the role of the charger? They charge the car. We have invented a charger that can discharge the car, the battery. So we are using electric cars, aggregating them as Airbnb is able to aggregate in a platform many homes, and you are able to rent your home. We are able to aggregate thousands of cars, and we are transforming them into a virtual plant, and we are providing services to the grid. What is the business model? You don't do anything. You have an electric car. When you plug in, you get money because we use your battery. How many years do you stay in a company every day? How many years do you stay at home every day? How many hours do you use, on average, your car? 1 hour? 1 hour and a half? On the other hours, we use your cars, your electric cars, because you have a battery. For us, an electric car is not a car. It's a battery with wheels.
And a startup was part of it.
But we couldn't do it without the startup. Because who is the owner of the digital platform? Who is aggregating those cars? Who is linking those platforms with the TSO, the transmission company? The startup. Without them, we couldn't do the business. Without us, they couldn't do the business because we have invented the device that is able to charge and discharge the car. So it's a win-win approach. But if we don't think in terms of win-win approach, I was on the opposite side. I was an entrepreneur. I have seen big companies. They are arrogant. They think they have everything. They don't want to work with startups because it's forbidden by the procurement. When I joined Enel, it was forbidden to work with a startup. When I asked to work, I tried to work with big companies. They asked me, oh, when did you start with your company? Oh, 1 year ago. So you are not eligible to work with us. What's your income? What are your revenues? I say, nothing. Oh, you are not eligible to work with us. How many employees do you have? Just 3. You are not eligible to work with us. So, okay, how can I find a startup that is not a startup? It's impossible, no? But this is because big companies talk about working with startups because it's nice, it's fashion, in big events, it sounds good. But after their managers make it impossible, make it impossible. So we started from the perspective of the entrepreneur. We must protect him. That's why we don't invest when we start working with the startup. Because if I invest in a startup, I have a lot of lawyers, accountants, bothering the entrepreneur, asking him for a lot of data that are useless. And the entrepreneur mustn't work for us. He must work for the customer. So we must leave it free. Let him, empowering him, giving the money for the industrial projects, and having on our side venture capitals. We are constantly working with venture capital funds. They share with us the list of companies they would like to invest, and we say, we would like to work with this and this, not with the other ones. And if they know that the 80 billion company, as we are, want to work with him, okay, they say, I will invest on him. What is our role? We are the industrial partner, not the financial partner. We are the industrial partner. We make the project. We manage the project. After 3-4 years, if it will be a successful startup, we manage the exit strategy. Because for us, it's easier to pay 1 billion rather than to pay many times 20 millions. Because we are not ready for the financial risk. But we are ready to buy big companies. So we have an industrial perspective, not playing monopoly. Do you know the game? But buying many shares in many small startups. This is not our business. This is the business of venture capital funds. We want to work with them, getting from them the list of prospective companies they want to work with, reducing their risk. Because we provide the industrial support, the industrial mentorship, a big company, 40 different markets, relationship with the regulators, relationship with governments, and you can imagine that we have the biggest network, electric network in the world. Already installed, more than 41 million kilometers. So we are the partner. They have only to work with us on the industrial side, knowing that we have already structured our company to be compliant with them, with their desires, because we think that we must get the best from the entrepreneur, his willingness to better his life, his family, and the world.
So Giovanni, we'll give you the last word because we're almost out of time. When you were talking about working in a family company with a strong, not invented here culture, and by the way, that's had a lot of success in its life. So they're not crazy. They have a lot of reality feeding that. How do you bring in the possibility of working with startups into such a culture?
It's a very important question. I think that we made basically what also he was saying. We create a win-win situation in a sense that we propose our culture of doing a fantastic product, a super premium strategy for a brand, and they are extremely interested in this, but they help us in designing new business models. So there is something that basically we can work together Obviously, the problem is when I go to the family and say, hey, can we put some money on these guys? They are a little bit skeptical on this, okay? But to build together partnership, to study how to go ahead has been quite easy. And I have to tell you that it is not only referred to startups, because for us it's important also to be on the big platforms. So we did a fantastic thing, like we have been in the US, the first coffee company together with another small company called Starbucks to launch the dash button on Amazon. So this is something that basically, if you are really there, you talk to them, you start to build a little bit track record, you can talk to startups, and then you will see. They talk to you. We use a very difficult, very innovative method. We just raise the phone and we call them.
So we have 4 European companies for you startups that are all open for business. Please join me in thanking my panel.